UK Stretch Fabric fans. So I've made my beanie, which I'll show you how to do in another tutorial, and I feel like it needs a pom-pom. So I'm going to show you how to make your own pom-pom out of your alpine fleece. What you'll need is a piece of alpine fleece big enough to draft your pom-pom, and I'll go into that in a minute. Some scraps of fabric, which will be left over from making your beanie, and a hand sewing needle and thread. So the size of your pom-pom is entirely up to you. You need something circular to draw around. So I've actually used the bottom of a lamp, and using one of my chalk pencils, I've drawn around the base of my lamp. You can use a tea plate or a water bottle, whatever you fancy, whatever's hanging around that's round. Now bear in mind that your finished pom-pom will end up half the size of the circle you've drafted. So if I've drafted an 8-inch diameter circle, my pom-pom will end up a 4-inch diameter. So judge that depending on how big you want it. Then we're going to cut that out. I always find it easier going in a certain direction around a circle than the other. There we go, save that scrap. The next thing I'm going to do is take my needle and thread. Now you need quite a long piece of thread because we're going to use it doubled, the reason for which will become apparent. So bring your threads so that the two ends are together. Trim those so they're nice and sharp, and thread both of the two ends into your needle. So what you'll have is the two ends through your needle and a piece of thread with a loop at the end. And what we're going to do a running stitch all the way around this circle. So it doesn't matter actually which side you go from. I'm going from the jersey side, about 6mm in from the edge, and maybe 4mm length stitches, kind of a basting stitch length, and you're just going to go up and back, kind of concertinaing the fabric onto the needle. When you can't go any further onto the needle, pull the thread through. Make sure you don't lose the looped end as you're going around your circle. You want to make sure that that stays out. You could tie a little marker onto it or something if you fancied. I like to live dangerously. Can you sort of start to see how this is coming together to make my pom-pom? So just from the right side to the wrong side, back and forth, all the way around, making sure your loop stays out at the end. I'm going to use that in a minute. And when you come back to where you started, pull your needle and thread through. You're going to take your loop, put your needle through your loop, and pull until the loop closes around your thread. So now you should have a little kind of bag. Now what I'm going to do is fill that bag full of my scraps. The smaller the scraps, the better. They just become stuffing. If you don't want to use your scraps, you can use actual wadding. I always find it takes a lot more than you expect. And I always want to stuff too much in at once, so go gradual. Don't want to bust the stitches I just was so careful about putting in, but you want to stuff it quite firm. No one wants a slobby pom-pom. Again, my pom-pom's getting stuffed with failed attempts of previous pom-pom. French terry in there as well. It's all going in. I reckon that can take a little bit more, but probably not all of that. This is a great scrap buster for all those stupid thready bits you get. Then what you can do is, once you're happy with the volume of your pom-pom, I reckon I could probably get a bit more in there. Watch me bust my stitches now. Kind of move it all around, make sure you're happy with the shape of it. You have a habit of ending up a bit flat rather than circular. But once you're happy, gently pull on that thread to close down the hole. So you'll end up with, it's basically a gathering stitch. You'll end up with a gather all the way at the end. Now my needle's come unthreaded, so I need to re-thread my needle. Again, both of those ends through my needle. And just to stabilise this whole thing, I'm just going to pass a few stitches back and forth across the hole. I always end up sewing black in the dark. I can't see what I'm doing. And you see now why I said you needed a long bit of thread. Because we still want to use, so that's your pom-pom. Kind of mash it into shape. There we go, one little alpine fleece pom-pom. I still want to use what's left on this thread. I didn't quite leave mine long enough. I still want to use what's left on it to stitch that onto my hat. So we've got a double layer hat, I've got an alpine fleece layer and a French terry layer. I only want to stitch it onto the French terry layer just for ease. So I'm going to position it in the middle and I'm going to use that thread that I've left behind. I'm not going to stitch it right in the centre of the pom-pom because then it will wobble around like nobody's business. So I'm going to stitch it kind of around a bit of a perimeter. My positioning might be a bit dodgy. Bane of my life, needles coming unthreaded. Once you've got all the way around, you can tie off your threads. Make sure you tie a good solid knot. Oh dear me. Be sarcastic with the amount of thread that you use in the beginning. You'll thank yourself for it at the end. You can always cut the extra off. can tie that off nice and firm now. I've got about 1/2 inch of thread left. And pass your thread into the pom-pom so that it disappears forever and you don't have to deal with the ends. I hate ends. And there we have one beanie hat with one scrap pom-pom. How cute is that?